Hey, what's going on, everybody? Hope you guys are doing good today. Michael back at you guys and girls with the real 1%. We got my main man, Ben, here today. How you doing today, brother?
Fantastic, dude. Living the
Hey, man,
dream.
appreciate you being here, stepping up to the call to action. We're coming at you guys live with another episode of the Military to Civilian podcast, the last mission, our last mission, the last assault, to civilian life. Some people may not think of it like that, but it is something that needs to be strategically planned out. So I'm interested to hear what your transition looked like and what has brought you to today. But if you don't mind, for all the listeners out there, go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, what made you join the service, what branch were you in, and just give us a little bit of taste what it was like being in the service, and then we can talk about transition after.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I grew up in the Midwest. My family lineage was farmers and factory workers, so there wasn't a clear path to success. Going into adulthood, and we moved from rural Wisconsin to Minneapolis, St. Paul when I was in high school, and even moving to that more metropolitan area and going to high school in the suburbs. It just, I was a small town kid, right? Like, so, I went from a class of like 30 kids to like a class of 500 in high school. And it was just, I got lost in the shuffle. Right. So kind of struggled to find my place, played sports, was relatively decent at things, had good grades, but like, the college offers weren't like rolling in or anything like that. And I was just trying to figure out like what the next path in life was going to be, because I knew that I didn't necessarily want to go down that farmer or factory worker route. But at the
Yeah.
same time, I didn't know, like, my parents didn't have a bunch of money, weren't going to co-sign loans or anything like that. So there wasn't a clear path for college for me. So that's what made me start looking at the military, right? Was, I knew I wanted to get some education, but I didn't know how I was going to get it. So, in high school, I took the ASVAB, and, because the recruiters were coming to campus and just, talking us up. And I had a couple of buddies that were upperclassmen that had joined, the Air Force, and, some different things that were going on. So, I kind of knew about, what it was all about, but taking the ASVAB really opened my eyes, because, I scored pretty well, and like the recruiters were knocking down the doors, right? Like, I think I
Yeah.
scored in like the 80 or 90, range points wise. Right. And like, so they're calling me, every single branch is calling me, and I'm doing my homework, and I'm like, okay, well, if I've got this high of an ASVAB score, then like I don't have to go and be like a cook or nothing. Like, I can do some pretty crazy stuff. And I looked at like crypto linguist and like EOD and like all these crazy jobs. And so I boiled it down between the Navy and the Air Force, right? Because those were kind of the two branches that were like technologically advanced. And this is back in 2002, right? So like, rewind to my senior year in 2001. 9/11 happened when I was a senior in high school. And I remember getting home from school that day, and we had the old school answering machines with the little tape inside of it. And my mom
Yeah.
was like, the thing's blinking, and it's a message from your recruiter. And at that point, I had signed delayed enlistment with the Air Force, right? So I did all my paperwork before my junior year, like was in the, or after my junior year, was in the pipe for my senior year. And literally the recruiter's on the message going like, we don't know what's going on, but if we need to yank you out of high school, like we can yank you out of high school. Like, we don't
Oh,
care.
you already signed it over. We're gonna get you early.
Like your paperwork's done. Like, we can grab you at any point. And at that point, again, like nobody really knew what was happening, right?
Yeah.
So it was just kind of like this precautionary message. And fortunately, I finished out high school. 9 days after I graduated from high school, I left for basic training in the Air Force. Went to Lackland Air Force Base, and that was kind of how the journey began for me, of just deciding that I wanted to, do something that was going to lead towards an education. And ultimately I got, career training and skills in the process. The job that I locked in, though, it's really counterintuitive, because I had such a high ASVAB score, but I fell for the recruiting poster on the wall, right? Like, there was the dude with the sunset behind him, the stealth bomber's there, and he's got like the gun, right? And I'm like, I want to be that guy. And that was security forces, right?
Dude, so you telling me you talking shit about cooks, but you went to the other job that works the most, just like the cooks, man. I was a cook, dude. Cooks and MPs, bro, working all day, every day, dude. You just were hyping it up. I thought you were gonna tell me you're a damn nuclear physicist or some shit. Come on, man. Come on, dude. Oh man, you fell for it though, man. You like you said, you must have fell for it. But
That dude was standing there in front of that stealth bomber, and that sunset was in the background. And I was like, that's the coolest. And then my recruiter was security forces. He was a canine handler, so he was like feeding it in my ear too. Like
dream, dude. He was loving that. Yeah.
So yeah, so I hook, line, and sinker took the bait, and then as soon as I finished basic training on one side of Lackland, they just shipped me to the other side to the Security Forces Academy, and I just stayed down in Texas for a couple of months getting all myself squared away.
How long does that take from start to finish, from basic training and your training? Were you there for like almost a year?
No, it was, so I got to basic training in June, and I was at my first permanent duty station in November. So what?
Oh, not that bad.
5 months? Yeah, 5 months. I think the Security Forces Academy was like 3 months, and then basic training was like, what, 2 months?
Not bad. Did you ever get that picture in front of the stealth bomber?
I did not. I got a cooler picture because I got to work with Air Force One at the tail end of my career, so I got a cooler picture.
There you go. You had to make it happen, though. You should have gave him a new poster to put up, man. You should have made a new poster, put that thing up, man. You should have gave it back to your recruiter, man. But hey, you need to get this up, man.
Absolutely.
But no, that's cool though. I worked with a lot of security forces people when I was a contractor in Africa, and they had a lot of security forces. Man, always working 12-hour shifts. You know what I mean? Like you're out there.
You were in Djibouti?
Nah, Niger.
Okay.
AD 101 and 201.
Yep, that airfield is just as hopping. Yep.
Yeah, they're hopping. It's like the new Afghanistan over there, man. They got everything going on. People don't realize that, but that's all been put out publicly. So yeah. You went to Africa? Did you have to go to Africa?
I didn't, but I had a lot of teammates that did that rotation.
Not bad. So how long did you end up doing in active duty?
So I was 8 years. So from 2002 to 2010. My first duty station, I joined the Air Force to travel, see the world, and they sent me to Minot, North Dakota. I was starting nukes. So here it is. So here it is from Minneapolis, St. Paul, thinking I'm going to go change the world, and they sent me like 8 hours away up to North Dakota.
And you got shafted on the job, kind of, because you got sold on that. So they gave you a good one, man. Damn, dude, you should have just joined the Army, man.
I know, right? So I'm standing out there freezing my tail off on top of a nuclear missile site.
Wow, how long did you have to go out there for? How many years? 2 years?
I was in Minot for 2 years, and then because I had my secret clearance and everything was squared away, and I was doing pretty well. Then I applied for special duty to Andrews Air Force Base to do presidential support, and got picked up for that assignment. So it was easier to pipeline people out of the nuke bases to Andrews because it was easier on clearances, right? Because you had to get your clearance upgraded to a top secret and a Yankee White and all that kind of business. So it was easier. It was an easier transition if they kind of cherry picked from installations that folks already had their baseline clearances.
So it kind of sets you up for a better assignment, a little bit of a, freeze for a little while, get your clearance updated. And then
like there were two ways out of the missile bases. Like you found a special duty assignment, or you took like that 1 year remote to Korea, so that way you could come back on base of preference.
Come back to the same base though, right? Like damn.
You came back on base of preference. So if you did that remote, then you could get to like Florida or California or whatever.
Okay, you got something. Okay, it's hardship you can put in for and get something you want. Okay.
Yeah,
kind of pay to play, but so how did you stay? How long did you go to Andrews for?
I was in Andrews for my last 6 years. So I stayed there for 6, which is longer than the typical term, because usually 2 or 3 years, they're rotating folks around, but they make that investment in folks there with that clearance level and everything. So they try to retain folks there, and as long as you're willing to stay and you don't have the itch to leave, like they'll keep you as long as you want to stay there. So it's really cool. I got to do some cool things at Andrews. I did deploy to Iraq in 2005. Interestingly enough, in the nuke world, like you carry every weapon specialty known to man, right? Like we're shooting the Mark 19s. You've got all the small arms, like everything. And then when I transitioned to Andrews, all my weapon certifications were still good. And they were trying to spin up a no-notice deployment to Iraq. And they were like, well, we don't have time to like send somebody to be a 240 or do this or do that. And I'm like, well, if you pull my weapons quals, I'm good. I just came from the missile field. And they were like, all right, appointed.
See you later.
So yeah, I was literally, I in-processed in October to Andrews. And then I was out to Iraq in February. I wasn't even like, I didn't even
Yeah,
settle,
you
settle
signed
in
in. You
yet.
signed in. Got in process. Went on term block leave, and then deployed. Pretty much. That's what I did, man. When I got to Fort Campbell, I was there. Like, you ready to go to Iraq? I'm like, I guess I just got here today, but I mean, yeah, let's like, what was like 90? Yeah, like same thing, like 90 days or less and gone. But you gotta love the time of war, man. So you went to Iraq, came back. When did you start thinking about getting out?
So I had a really good NCO while I was in Minot that really put the education bug in my ear. And I
Okay.
started chipping away at coursework like really early, like maxing out that TA every year, using that
Smart.
$4,500, taking as many classes as I could, right?
Yeah.
And he really instilled in me because he was a 6-year enlistee and he made staff sergeant early and he got out after his 6 years with a 4-year degree. And I was like, that's pretty smart. Like he
Yeah.
figured it out. So I started chipping away and, I had to do an extension on my enlistment to take the orders to Andrews, which was fine because I wasn't ready at that point to even look at getting out. But I think the thing that tipped the tables for me was in turn of the year 2010. My oldest son was born in summer of 2009, so he was about 6 months old at the time. My wife and I had been married for a couple of years, and deployments were different when it was me. It was different when it was just me and my wife. But then, like when my kid came around, like deployments changed. Right? I had a
Yeah.
buddy that they had a squad that deployed to Afghanistan, and they were running convoys, and their convoy got rocked by an IED, and dude just came back and didn't interact with his kids and his wife the same way. And it's not that he was physically harmed, but he wasn't the same dad that left. Right. And like, that was
Yeah.
my internal fear was like, if I do this again, roll the dice, take another squad back, like, am I going to come back the same dude as I left as, and, have a relationship with my kids? And to be honest with you, that scared the crap out of me.
Yeah.
So that was kind of my decision point. And in May of 2010, I was due to graduate with my bachelor's. So I was like, okay, well, maybe this is the transition year, right? So I started thinking about it and, had conversations with my wife about the deployment orders and, decided to decline that deployment. And I was just going to ride my time out until November ETS and, go to civilian land. And keep in mind, this is beginning of 2010, right? So I'm thinking I got like 10 months to like start planning my transition. Well, at that point, the Air Force was going through force shaping, right? They were trying to do as much as they could to like reduce force, they
Yeah.
were overstaffed in certain areas. So by me declining those orders, it triggered the process to say, okay, this guy doesn't want to be in anymore.
Wow.
So
Did you know that, or did you find out the hard way?
I found out the hard way. So I
Oh,
declined
damn.
the orders thinking that I'm just going to ride my time to November. I was a civilian July 1st.
Oh man, that's wild.
So literally, like I declined my orders in March. By April, they were like, hey, we're going to force shape you. And I had, I think, like 77 days of terminal leave that I could eat up. So, like, before I knew it, I'm on terminal leave trying to find a job because starting July 1st, I don't have a paycheck no more.
Yeah, that's wild, dude. I mean, you definitely weren't planning for that to happen, even if you had, yeah, like, hello. So how'd that go, man? So
It
60
left
something.
it left a bad taste in my mouth, right? Because I had a great experience during my 8 years in service, but like how I got kind of like balled up and tossed away at the end when I was no longer useful to them, that
Dude,
kind of it put a sour taste in my mouth.
I can feel you, man. I got done the same way, man. A little like just to put it in context. I was at Fort Carson for my last 11 months. I left Germany and I had a bad foot and I was getting foot surgery. And all they worried about was going to the field. No one cared. No one even asked me what I was going to do when I got out. Trying to drag you to the field until you're on your last leg. And then when I was time for me to get out, they put me in charge to chaperone, escort 2 other soldiers that were getting put out for overweight program. I got out in 2015. Well, it was the same time for me to get out. So okay, all you are getting out. We don't give a damn about y'all. Yeah,
Right.
you're NCO. Why don't you take charge of them? Well, why don't I take charge of my own self and try to figure out what I'm gonna do, and you take charge of them? You know what I mean? So it's like I feel you on that, man. And that's definitely not how anyone should feel to get out. And if you do feel like that, hopefully you can reach out to me, or I'm sure you reach out to Ben. Anybody, man. I don't. That's why we're trying to do something like this, stuff like this, so no one has to go through that you can learn another way, because I didn't know to turn to YouTube to try to figure out if someone already went through a crazy time to get out the military. Dude, you shouldn't get done like that, man, because you put your time in and you just feel like you just at that point you probably realize, damn, I'm just a number. For real.
Right. And I had so many folks that were trying to talk me into, just take the set of orders, right? Like leave your options open. And I'm like, nah, dude, like I sat down with my wife and we thought about this. We prayed about it. Like it's not the right thing for me to do.
Yeah.
And I had no idea it was going to completely turn my world upside down.
Dude. Yeah, man. And some people I've heard they even try to get them on scare tactics. Like, oh, come on, man, do this. Like, what are you gonna do outside? Like, dude, there's life after. Everyone has to face it. There's life after the military, unless you literally get 100% retire, 100% disability off the rip, retirement, Social Security, combat related, special service pay, or whatever. You get all that stuff going for you, and you get all your stuff under control. Yeah, you might can be able to sit on a beach somewhere and chill. But for the most people that get out of service, a lot of people either don't want to stop working, they don't know how to stop, or they can't stop because they need to work to keep churning, man, to keep it going. It's not like you said, your paycheck's going to stop. And even the last paycheck, a lot of people have told me, they say it gets audited. So sometimes you don't even get paid on the 1st or the 15th. So you might have to wait for your check.
And to ice the cake, right? Like, because I was being put out under force shaping, right? Like there was a separation pay, right?
Yeah.
Well, so I got this lump sum, but I didn't realize what like all the letters and characters meant on the bottom of my DD-214, right? And like I'm like, okay, they're putting me out. They're giving me this lump sum payment. Like, okay, like I don't understand what's going on. And then all of a sudden I get the letter in the mail from Air Force Reserve Command, and they're like, you've been successfully transferred to Air Force Reserve Command. You're now on individual ready reserve for the next 3 years. And I'm like, nobody told me this. Like I had no idea what the hell just happened. I thought I did my 8 years. I'm golden, right? And then all
got you on the small print, the fine print,
right? Whatever that code was that was attached to that money. You accepted the money, so you're accepting the contract. And I'm like, what the hell just happened?
Did you ever get called in on that though, or
I had to go twice to Dover Air Force Base, which was my East Coast muster station.
Okay.
To check in and kind of, make sure that I could still like fit in a military uniform and like all that kind of stuff, right? Do like this check in because I was an individual. I mean, there wasn't drill commitment. There wasn't anything like that, but it was like 2 times I got tagged to go up to Dover to check in to make sure that, if they needed me, if all hell broke loose, they could call me and say, hey, put your uniform back on.
Damn, man, that's wild. So what plan did you devise in those days for what was your plan? Plan A when you got out?
So plan A when I got out. So I did my bachelor's degree in sports and health sciences. And here was the dream, right? I was going to get out of the military. I was going to do like a troops to teachers type program. I was going to go be a gym teacher and coach high school football. Like that was the plan, right?
Sounds pretty, yeah.
It seems easy enough, right?
Yeah.
And my wife's a school teacher. So she had already connected me with I was already coaching at the high school that she worked at. I was in with the athletic director. Like things were sweet. And then we sat down one night and she's like, have you really thought this through? And I'm like, what are you talking about? And my wife's my truth teller, right? I love her to death.
Yeah.
She's like the first kid that gets up in your face or gets cocky with you, because this is a DC suburb that we're living in, right? So there's some edgy kids in that area. And, she's like, the first kid that you grab and Coach Carter style throw up against the locker, she's like, you don't have a career anymore. And I was like, oh, that's pretty smart. Like that's intuitive. Like I hadn't thought about that. So she's like, do you really want to gamble that much? You got some PTSD issues. You got some things going on in your head. Like the first kid you snatch up, like that's going to be the end of you. And we're going to be famous in ways we don't want to be. And I'm like, she was
being real with you.
She's got a point. So I'm like, okay, well, let me rethink this. Right.
Yeah.
So at that point, with finishing my bachelor's degree, I was like, okay, well, at 26 years old, I'm getting out of the military, 8 years of cop experience. I got a bachelor's degree in something that, I really can't do anything with now, because now I've had to swallow this hard pill of can I even do this?
Yeah.
So I settled down in, higher education law enforcement, like doing campus security and campus safety and emergency preparedness, because that was I was able to check the box of, yes, I have a bachelor's degree, but I've got 8 years of, cop skills. But I didn't necessarily want to go back into hardcore law enforcement. Right. And go back through like a police academy and like do all of that stuff and start off at the bottom of the totem pole again.
Yeah.
So I found a local regional community college in Southern Maryland, and I applied to that. I saw a vacancy for a lower level position. I applied to the position. I got the lower level position. We kind of negotiated for a salary point because I knew what my bottom was, right? Like I couldn't take a job below this line, right? So I settled into that position, unbeknownst to me that the director of the public safety and preparedness department was already making her exit plan, right? So she basically hired me as an underfill to recommend me to her boss as taking over the department, completely unbeknownst to me. So I start on with them July, right after the 4th of July holiday, right? So I was fortunate enough to not be unemployed, right? The military paycheck stopped. I was fortunate enough to start a new job right after the 4th of July. And then this lady bounces in October of that year, and I get appointed to the interim role as this director. And I'm like, okay, making a little bit more money than, what my baseline was. I'm kind of in a cushy position. Things kind of have worked out. So now what, right? Now what? So at that point, I'm like, okay, well, the whole education route that I went didn't really work out. So like, what's next, right? Like I got my GI Bill. Like, what do I need to do next to figure out like how I'm going to be a grown up, right, in society?
Yeah.
And that's by working in the community college environment. It's, kind of pseudo government, and like government and being of service still interested me. So I was like, okay, well, let me explore like a degree in government or public administration or something like that. And like really solidify that skill set. So that way, as I'm getting this on the job experience with like public budgeting and like running a community college department, like I've got a credential that matches up with my experience. Cause at that point in time, my experience and my education didn't line up. Right. And I needed to bring those two in line with each other. So fortunately enough, the college offered tuition reimbursement and I had my GI Bill. So my wife and I both went to school for our masters at the same time and kind of double dipped on education benefits and ended up with 2 master's degrees and 0 student debt. So we kind of worked.
Can't go wrong, baby. Can't go wrong. You can't go wrong.
So that worked out kind of well in our favor. And, and then I think the real big transition point, right? So I kind of, even though my exit plan was crappy and my parachute had holes in it,
yeah,
I still landed on my feet, right? Because I didn't have a period of unemployment. I did take a job where I was underemployed, not knowing the door that was going to open ahead of me, right? Like that wasn't disclosed to me in like the interview process or anything like that. And she like waited till I was on the job for like a month to see if I'd actually stick around, and then like brought me in her office and like gave me the lowdown on like what her master plan was. And I was like, okay, well, that would have been even nicer to know up front, but I'm glad you see me in that regard. Right. So fast forward that, I've been on the job there. I, went through the interim role, performed really well, revamped the security department, like rewrote their SOPs, like did everything that needed to be done at the institution. So I was able to compete for the permanent position, got the permanent position, got a pretty nice pay jump. And then life happens, right? In 2012, January 2012, we find out that my father-in-law out here in Southern California gets diagnosed with Parkinson's. And we're like, fuck.
Yeah.
So like my wife and I literally are like, I remember vividly, we're sitting in our townhome in Maryland, sitting on our bed looking at each other, like right after we got off the phone, finding out this information. And we're like, we need to be in California. Right. Like there's nothing that requires us to stay out here in Maryland.
Yeah.
So literally within 6 months, no job secured, no anything. Like we decided we're packing up our whole lives, like, and doing the coast to coast, right? Like we're calling the cargo company, packing our stuff up, having our stuff shipped. We're packing up 2 cars. We're packing up our 2-year-old, and we're driving from Maryland to California. And like whatever happens on the other side happens on the other side. Like that was completely a faith move, right? Like there was nothing going to catch us, right? And my wife, if you know anything about like the teacher world, like credentials aren't the same from state to state to state, right? So like she had to jump through a million hoops to get like all of her Maryland credentials transferred to California, and like it was this whole deal, right?
Yeah.
Fortunately enough, I was able to parlay my existence in the community college world to a university out here in California, landed on my feet in another campus safety department, and, was able to kind of do that role, even though it was in a more diminished role than being the director of the department, for another year and a half, just to kind of facilitate our coast to coast move. Right.
Yeah.
Made ends meet, got the family out here, got settled into, we bought a house in October of 12 out here. And like, we put down our roots in California so we could be close to my in-laws and just support them in whatever way that looked like, with my father-in-law evolving through this, Parkinson's and dementia process.
Dude, it's life at its finest, right? And props to you and your family for making that move and being there for your family ultimately, but for both of you guys as family. So that takes a lot to do, but like you said, the job's not important, more important than family. You're going to make it regardless. You weren't just going out there saying, I'm not going to do anything, I'm just going to go here and sit here. Now you went out there like, I got to make it happen regardless. You got a kid, you got your wife, you got sick family, you got but those are all just things to make it happen, right? Like once I had my son after the military, that just made me get to a whole nother mind frame. So I obviously, and my dad passed too when I got out the military, not that long after. So all that life happening in that once, man. You get out the military, you think you're gonna be good. Next thing you know, kid. Next thing you know, living at home with my mom, my dad, pregnant girlfriend. Never did that before. With my dad dying in the other bedroom, broke up, pregnant girlfriend. Have the kid, dad dies. All crazy stuff. So whatever you had planned before that, it doesn't even matter anymore, man, because you're on to a whole nother thing. So what was something that you guys struggled with the most after that? I mean, obviously you got comfortable working and sort of saw yourself progressing in one job, just to, get hit in the face with life and go do something else. Was there something that sort of stuck out for you and your wife and your family?
It was a series of compromises, right? Because like my wife moving from East Coast to West Coast, right? Like she had to get a new job. She wasn't tenured. So like there was the anxiety of like, layoffs constantly, all of this kind of stuff. Like job security was a big issue.
Yeah.
And then, like when we moved, right, like I took this diminished role at this new university, and, that required me to go back into a shift work type setting. Right. So I'm working like swings or graveyards, and it's like, it's that stuff again. Right. But it was like, I know what I need to do to put bread on the table for the family. Right. So I was doing it, but it wasn't comfortable. Right. It was not comfortable. And I hadn't finished my master's degree yet. So actually, as we were driving coast to coast, like I'm still in the middle of a class. Right. So I'm doing class online. Right. So then I didn't finish my degree until February of 2013, when we were already out here in California. So like that was a whole process in itself, like trying to finish up a master's degree. And I'm in between.
You did it though, man. You did it though. You still did it.
Like it just was one of those things where it's like, you just got to put your head down and you got to focus on the end goal. Right. Because I knew that ultimately, by getting that degree and having the experience that I had and being able to tie it all together, it was going to open up a door to government. I just didn't know when or where that door was going to open, but I was lining all of the blocks up and kind of, doing again, kind of what we did on that coast to coast move, just kind of putting my faith out there going, okay, I know I want to do this. I'm getting my education in this. I just got to keep doing, putting one foot in front of the other each day. And eventually that door is going to open. I just don't know when. It's not my will. It's his will. Like we're just doing it. Right.
Absolutely. No, you're right, man. You got to have that. I mean, that plays an important role in a lot of people's lives. So it's good that you did that and stuck by it, man. Because sometimes when times get tough, a lot of people get shaky on that. I mean, I'm probably been guilty of it too. I'm not going to sit here and say I've always stood firm and lie, but we all get shaky at times. But sometimes you got to stand true to what you believe in and who you believe in, and make it, and that will make it happen. So good for you. What does sick call look like in Air Force, and what did you leave with a disability rating, all that jazz, all that sick call mumbo jumbo? But your take on it, essentially.
I was one of those dudes that like I swallowed my pride when I got out, because I was so resentful at how I got out of the military that I was like, I don't need nothing from y'all. Right.
Bro, we got out the same way, dude. I got out and didn't even go to my VA appointment, dude. I said, I'm not going to fucking. What is that?
Like, I am not busted. I am not broken. Like I'm 26 years old. I am able-bodied. Like I got all my limbs. Like I'm good. I don't need y'all. Right.
Yeah.
Like that was my mentality getting out. And like, in hindsight, I'm like, I'm taking advantage of the education benefits. Like I'm already conceding over here. Like, why don't I just do that? But I just couldn't mentally, I couldn't get myself in that headspace. So it literally took me 10 years after getting out of the military to finally go to my VA appointment.
Damn, dude.
It took a buddy of mine. So it took almost 10 years for me to get comfortable being reintegrated really into the veteran community, because I was just so, like, literally I packed up my military life, put it in a box in the attic, and was like, it is, right? Because I had such a bad taste in my mouth of how I got thrown away at the end, that I was just like, I don't even really need this, right? Like, it just was a thing. And then I got reintegrated with a veteran community out here in Southern California. And I literally had a Marine buddy of mine drag me to Loma Linda and was like, we are doing this, whether you're kicking, screaming, whatever, like we are doing your paperwork.
Yeah, dude. For real. I would have done the same thing. If that was me and I caught your ass out there, I would have done the same thing, man. I do it to my friends. Hey, our friend, we met in Key West last September, and I picked him up at the airport. Man, I made his ass call. We made his ass call the VA hotline and do the damn
notice of intent.
They take the file right in front of us, dude. Doing that shit right now, dude. We had called our other friend on FaceTime. Said, dude, get on this man's ass. Like, we're about to, yeah. And then guess what happened? Dude? Like, out of all this stuff that we went through, all the hardships, 10 years. For me, it took 5 years to get to where I'm at now. But still, he did the intent to file, 1 claim, 1 rating, 100%. First time go, dude. But go ahead, man. I didn't want to steal your shine, but
no.
Dude, it's crazy to hear it from someone else kind of have something similar, because I'm like, man, I wonder if other people kind of like got done shitty like me, but absolutely did, dude. And you're just valid proof that there's more out there like it, man. Damn.
Absolutely. And the funny part is, my buddy that's a Marine that drugged me out to Loma Linda, right? Like, he wasn't rated either until his divorce proceedings, and the judge ordered him to go get rated.
Oh, damn.
so like, he didn't do it willingly either, but then he got his rating, and he was like, dude, you're not rated. It's not about you anymore. It's about your kids. It's about your wife. It like drug my ass to the VA.
Yeah.
So I went through my whole rating process, right? Like, and in the Air Force, they document stuff. So I had, thick ass medical file and all this kind of stuff that I went up to my Foot Locker, got out, like, had to request a couple records from the National Archives and like get everything together. But, got everything taken care of, got my rating, everything is squared away. And the beauty of it is, in the state of California, even if you are rated at 0%, your kids qualify to go to school at a state school or a UC school for tuition free.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
So my kids are both set up for college now, just because I got my head out of my butt.
That's what I'm saying. It's not always about the financials, man. It's all, even though that schooling is still financial, because you're not financially held responsible. Same thing, man. In Florida, 100%. I think in Texas, it's a Chapter 35. There's so many different things, like, because some states offer it, but the moral of the story is there's school, there's education for your spouse, and the beauty of some of them is, I don't know how it is in the California, but I know if you're 100% permanent and total in certain states, or maybe anywhere, your spouse and your kids, they actually get a stipend. So it's like, even if you don't have your GI Bill, they're still going to get something very similar to it. Then they'll get. So it's just a slew of benefits out there. And I love hearing people, talk about it and know that you're up on it, because they don't give you a pamphlet when you get out telling you, hey, if you're going to California, they're going to, if you 0%, you're going to go to school. They don't really tell you too much of that,
Oh, absolutely not. Like, I was blown away when I started looking at, California being as liberal of a state as it is, right? I was really surprised at the concentration of veterans and how pro-veteran their laws are, and like their state organizations for CalVet. Like, there are so many things that they offer in the state of California for veterans. And a lot of times my experience is in looking at certain states, like, you've got to have that magic 100 number to like unlock everything. Right.
Yeah.
But in California, like, they don't require that magic 100 number for everything. Right. For certain things they do, but for me, I'm not at 100%, but I've still got a slew of things that are unlocked to me. And it's amazing.
That's a plus, and you can always keep going. And if stuff gets worse, just keep going. And if you need
Well,
help, I got you too.
yeah, absolutely. That's the thing is, right. Like I just wanted all the dinks and dunks documented for, so that way, as they progress and get worse or things happen, right. Like that rating could potentially increase. But, at this point, I'm just happy I got it all done.
Yeah, dude. Is your friend off you? Is your friend off your ass now, or is he still on you?
No, he's off. He's off.
There you
He's
go.
good. He's good now. He's good now.
There you
So,
go. You got to move to the next one. That's when you both now you got to go get somebody. It's like once you get on,
well,
then you got to go
funny,
get somebody else.
funny
That's all.
story is
Yeah.
fast forward to post pandemic. I started at a new barbershop, and the dude that was cutting my hair was an army guy, and he wasn't connected. And I literally sat in the barber chair and was like, "We're calling the number, dude. You're doing your notice of intent to file."
For real, dude. What's the worst they can do is say you got nothing, but like you're losing by not starting today. Call right now. If you're listening to this, pause this call. 1-800-827-1000. Get on the phone and tell me you want to do an intent to file. It's that easy. Pause this shit right now. We're not going nowhere. Like, seriously, man. Like, dude, crazy, man. Go back. We left the Army the same way, man. We're done. We don't want to be here. We could have had a VA rating before we got out. You waited 10 years. You know what I mean? It's crazy. We could be. We've left millions on the table, man. I did the math. I said, man, it took me 5 years to get to 100%. That's $250,000 if you would have had it at the beginning. It's not all about money, but it is sometimes. I mean, I'm not going to lie. Would it be nice? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, would it be nice to have your rating 10 years ago and not have, yeah. But hopefully you guys don't wait 10 years or 5 years.
Absolutely
Get it done now. Get it done now.
You can get that benefits on delivery benefit or on discharge benefit, where you can do all your paperwork while you're still in, and the first day that you're out, like your benefits kick in.
Yeah, because think of it. So if you just even get out like 80% or something, like whatever, that might be like $1,900, right? So just $1,900. That's tax free. So it's really, you could bump it up if you ever needed to use it for anything. And then just say you're out in LA and you're going to school for a master's degree and you got your GI Bill rolling, or you got voc rehab because you got a disability. You're probably making like $4,000 a month. It's about to go up again. You're at $6,000 almost right there, man. Right there, just before getting out. You don't have to worry about going to find a job you're going to get underpaid at. I already did that. Don't go somewhere you're not going to be happy at. I mean, I had like 12 of them. I did it for 12 people. So I did different tests. It's all the same hypothesis. Don't do some shit that you don't want to do if you don't have to. Find something that you want to do before you get out, before it's too late, where you have to take a lower paying job because you need the money. Try to be a little bit better at planning. At least that's what I would personally do myself. If I could go back and do it again. I mean, I did have a job and stuff when I first got out, but like you said too, life all blew up and everything went from being one way to the total opposite. And I mean, you know what I mean? I didn't have the money or the foresight to say, hey, I'm good for a couple of months. I could sit back and have a sabbatical. No,
Absolutely.
like I wish I could have, but I wasn't in that scenario, man. So
and the icing to this cake is like, don't take all of your preconceived notions and think that's the end of the road, right? So like, here's case in point, right? So I used my MGIB when I got out and did my master's degree, right? Because when I was in on active duty, I never rolled it over to the post 9/11, like did that paperwork and like, right? So I had the traditional MGIB, fine, paid for my master's, no deal, or no problems, solid deal, everything was taken care of. And then a couple of years ago, probably just as well as I do, the legislation changed that disclaimed that your MGIB and post 9/11 are two separate benefits and you're entitled to both, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, okay. So then I go, I start researching that a little bit more, and I go back to school for my doctorate. And I'm like, okay, well, I gotta figure this out. So then I started, going to the education portal and looking at things, and it's like, no, your MGIB is dry. Like the 10 years has passed, your funds are dried up, da, 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 da. And I'm like, but there's got to be some way to unlock this post 9/11 deal that they talked about through the legislation. So I called the education hotline, and I'm waiting on hold, and I'm like, okay, this is my situation. Like, this is what I need to do. Like, I use this, I go in the portal, it says I have no education benefits left. Like, what's the magic password, right? To get this other benefit.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, that's a simple fix. Like you have to go online and you have to fill out this form to revoke your MGIB. And I'm like, revoke? Like it's dead. Like it's useless.
God, yeah.
It's already gone. He's like, no, literally, like as soon as you revoke your MGIB, your post 9/11 becomes available to you. And I'm like, oh shit, is that's the speakeasy, right? Like that's the secret word is two monkeys, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Revoke.
So
Yeah.
we don't know these things, and like it's not very intuitive, right? So I had to call and like jump through all these monkey hoops and do all this stuff. But ultimately, and unfortunately in my circumstance, my post 9/11 is capped because I got out in 2010 and they didn't pass the forever until a couple years later. So I've got the 15-year version. I don't have the lifetime.
Same as my buddy has the same thing, and he was like a couple of days short. So that's kind of a sour. But you did learn. You could probably press it on. You're teaching me something new because I didn't know you had to jump through all them hoops to do some stuff like
that. So I don't believe in coincidences. I believe things happen for a reason, right? Like
yeah.
where I'm due to graduate with my doctorate in May of 2025, my post 9/11 expires July 1st of 2025. so like again, I don't believe in coincidence. I think things happen for a reason, but everything is lined up for me to be able to complete this whole doctorate while working full time in a really great government job, having my my VA compensation coming in once a month, getting my tuition paid for, getting my BAH for being on post 9/11, which in the LA market it's like $3,500. It's like $3,500 a month.
It's about to go up here soon because Tampa's 22 right now, and I saw the VA pamphlet, and 2 months in the fiscal year, October, it's going to 2,700. So you're probably looking at like 4,000,
right? And it pays my mortgage, right? Like that takes
absolutely, dude.
like completely out of the work for me. So I got tuition benefit, I got my mortgage being paid for, like. And I got a cushy government job, and my wife's doing pretty well too, So I mean, not saying that we're rolling in dough like wiping our butts with $100 bills, but I mean, like we are not strapped.
Yeah, no, that's great to hear, man. Because you're taking full advantage of what's offered out there to everybody, man. You don't go. Yeah, I went through the hard way, looking to try to get a job and work my way up when I should have just been plugging away at my benefits first, and then trying to find the better fit of a job or waiting to get through school. Because another thing I forgot to mention is, along with your GI Bill money or voc rehab or whatever you get into, you can also, if you're in an undergraduate degree, you can also get approved for the Pell Grant, and you're looking at another $800 a month. So that's tax free too. You can get it out every month if you have all your school paid for, and that's like, man, you could be really you could be making more money than you were in the military if you get out and you use what's available and you have your stuff in order. So, case in point, man, hey, good for you. You took advantage. You did the work. You put your head down. It's like we all deserve it, but it's like some people get too discouraged when things don't go how they may have seemed they're supposed to go, or like essentially a point here: voc rehab, VR&E, veterans readiness and employment. Like you got to do a little bit of a legwork to get in, but it's so easy now that they've like mainstreamed it now. That used to be a one-on-one, but one of my buddies just told me. He did like a little cohort in brief with 50 people on Zoom. Then he got a text message on what to do next with his counselor. And then all you got to do is like do a little bit. Yeah, you have to do legwork. You have to go to the Bureau of Labor Statistics and say, what are you going into? What is the outlook? What are some statistics on that job field? But dude, you're telling me you don't want to do that to get paid money to go to school? That I'll do that. If I could do that for the rest of my life and go to school and get paid, I'd probably do that, because no one's telling you have to kill yourself. It's people, a lot of schools aren't looking to fail people. You go in there and do your work and do what you got to do. And I mean, go better yourself, get better skills, upgrade your toolkit, but yeah, man, I plan on using, I guess there's another program called Troops to Tech or something like that. And I guess you only have to have 1 day of your GI Bill left, but that's essentially more schooling that you can get paid for. And I think I'm not sure. You ever heard of that one or no?
I'm not. I mean, there's so many programs.
I know, man. It's something new I heard about.
When I got out in 2010, there wasn't the plethora of resources that are available at your fingertips today. I can tell you that much.
You're right about that. So, What's another benefit that you may have came across like along the way that you didn't know about that's pretty valuable for vets? Would you say?
Dude, the National Parks Lifetime Pass. That is the awesome one, right? And it used to be that you had to have a 30% disability rating or higher to get it. And now
Yeah,
it's available to everybody, right? You just have to be, have veteran status, right? But
yeah,
dude, that's an amazing benefit because I'm out here in California. We got national parks. Like you throw a rock and you hit a national park, right?
yeah.
And like I love to get my kids outdoors and like get them away from screens and all that kind of stuff. And now I have two boys. They're my older's 14, my younger one's 9. They love the outdoors, right? So like,
Absolutely.
that federal national parks pass, God, that's an amazing benefit because it doesn't cost me anything besides the gas to get there, to just get in the park and just enjoy nature and do
Yeah.
the deal. And California also has free fishing licenses. I mean, there's so many things that you can get in the
Oh,
recreation space for nothing, right? For filing a form, right? You literally
yeah.
file a form, they send you whatever in the mail, and you are good for either the year or your lifetime or whatever.
You like hunting or fishing?
I do enjoy. I'm not a big hunter. I do enjoy recreational fishing, sport fishing, not so much. But yeah, just putting a bobber in the water.
Yeah. No, they have. I was gonna say they have this. Was it hunting gear called Sitka? You ever heard of that brand, Sitka?
I think I'm familiar with
Yeah,
it,
they
but
have
I'm
like
not a
a.
big. Yeah.
Oh no, just another military benefit. It's like they got a pro program for people that are interested in, buying their gear or whatever, outdoor gear. You can get a discounted rate. It's just all, yeah, like you said, man, just so many things that you could just go on and on about. But what I want to do one day is sort of have like a roundtable call and put an invite out, and everyone just bring their list full of stuff that they have of benefits, and then just keep going until no one has anything left, and everyone can come chime in or listen to the recording or something like that. But maybe even do like a live call if you want to jump on and say, hey, what's something that worked for you that might benefit another veteran or family member, and then do some stuff like that. That way, you can just get some more information out there, man. Because it is out there, but a lot of the thing is, a lot of people aren't really in that mind state to look for what's there because they're in that fight or flight, man. They're worried about what they're going to do for their next meal or their shelter. Never mind, they can't worry about going to fly fishing camp. You know what I mean, or something like that. So
Basic needs, right? As soon as you get that basic needs met, and you find yourself in a holistic state, then you can start to expand, right?
yeah, yeah, you're right. What was one thing that you say you struggled with the most after separating from the military?
My undiagnosed PTSD
And
was
what did it take for you to get that like pretty much seen?
so here's so while I was on active duty, and this is a whole rabbit hole I won't go down, but I came from a pretty broken home situation, so I went into the military with some baggage, right?
Yeah,
um and then it evolved, going to Iraq and different things, you're just stacking layers on top of each other, right? And while I was on active duty in 2007, I self-referred to alcohol and drug abuse, right? Because I was just, alcohol was my cure-all. And I got sober in July of 2007 through going to rehab on Andrews Air Force Base, at Malcolm Rural Medical Center, and doing the deal, right? And I wrote my PTSD off as a character defect of my alcoholism. I did not want to put a label on that I was broken, right? So for a
yeah.
long time, I treated it as a symptom of my alcoholism. I didn't treat it as what it was, right? And
What
I
made you
didn't.
flip the switch?
Finally doing my rating.
By doing it right.
Finally getting it down on paper that, hey, you have this. This is what we value it at, and these are the resources that are available to you for this specific situation.
Did someone help coach you through it? Did that Marine friend of yours like help you, like not tell you essentially what you have to say, but like sort of just like pretty much almost give you a pep talk of like, dude, don't go in there and
I
say you're
was
awesome, like, essentially,
right.
like,
No, I had plenty, because I had reintegrated into that veteran community. I was able to, have some chats with folks before I went to my appointment to do, get all the stuff. I think the thing that was most disappointing through the process was, I remember vividly the day that I had to go do my PTSD interview with the shrink, right? And that was not a comfortable conversation, right? Like she literally was taking notes, like as my body language changed, like as we're digging into this, right?
Yeah.
And then at the end of that, hour 15 or whatever it was, right? Like they're like, oh yeah, we have all we need. Thank you. Doors that way. And I'm like, you just literally spun me up and put me in a bad space. And then you're like, all right, we got what we need. See ya. Have a good day. Like if I could make a recommendation to the VA, like you need to have like counselors on standby after you spin up people like that to be able to decompress them before you turn them back loose into the world. Right. Cause I literally went out to my car, sat in my car and was like shaking and like had to call a buddy of mine and was like, I just need somebody to talk to right now because I just need to process through what the hell just happened.
Damn, that's what a lot of people. I've heard that from a lot of different people, but you're right. And the crazy thing is, you telling all that to somebody, they're doing the notes, but then they're going to hand it off to someone else that never even met you to make the decision. But that's a whole nother story for another time.
Absolutely.
But man, that's damn, dude, you're right. When you were saying that, I was thinking they need to have counselors, and never mind that, like something else, like a decompression room or some shit.
Peer-to-peer specialists, like all those different things should be available because literally the way that it was handled was like, oh, we got everything that we need. The door's over there. And I'm like, dude, my heart rate's up. I'm sweating. Like I'm tense. Like you just made me relive some terrible shit. And now you're saying the door's over there.
You're not the only one, brother. That's how, yeah. Even the first time I went for my mental health exam and they like told me I like broke down in the room, man, crying or whatever, because you reliving all this crazy ass shit in front of someone who doesn't even know you. They're just staring at you while you tell them, right? And then like she told me to stop, but then like I must have sold myself short because I only end up getting a 50% rating, and then a lot of people are scared to open up that can of worms. They say is the VA, oh, they'll decrease your rating. They don't decrease your rating if you have paper trail of it getting worse. That's what you have to understand. If your symptoms get worse over time, how are they going to do? What are they going to decrease you for? They're just going to open you up and do that? No, they're not. I don't know. I think some people have like it misconstrued with the VA. Like you're going to get what you deserve, or you're not going to go at all and let them not give you anything. I mean, I don't know there's really no in between. Just go do what's right. Does it suck? Yeah. Is it uncomfortable? Of course. What should we do? Maybe have someone on standby to take that phone call, or have someone that you could call when you get done, because it might be a dark time. So that's good advice right there. That's a good one.
I've got an accountability crew on my phone that it's me and 3 other veterans, right? And they are pinned to the top of my text chat. Like if shit is happening, one of them's in Texas, one of them's in the west side of LA, one of them's up in the Palm Desert. He's a flight test engineer, and like literally, like if anything happens, like I drop the SOS in that text chain, and like I will get a phone call from somebody, right? That's like good. Somebody is watching that, and we got each other 6, just to, and it's interesting because like one's an Army dude, one's a Marine, another Air Force guy. It's like, we've got cross spectrum, right? So it's just like
join up.
Like having that ability to just have a group of trudge buddies though is fantastic.
Now, how'd you come up with that? What made you guys do that?
So the way I got reintegrated to the veteran community was through I like watching mixed martial arts, right? So like UFC and Bellator are like my go-tos, right? Like I love watching people punch each other's faces in. So
big fight this weekend, right? Big fight UFC.
Yeah, there's the BMF belt is on the line this weekend. So anyway, we could go down a whole rabbit hole with that, but I want to get to the intent of this, right? So I'm watching Bellator, and they had a spot on there for this this agency. Well, I don't want to call it an agency. It's a peer-to-peer support group, but it's called Merging Vets and Players. And I don't know if you've heard of them, but the premise behind the deal is Jay Glazer, who's an NFL insider, and Nate Boyer, who was Army Special Forces, and then got out, went to Texas on scholarship, and then tried out for the Seattle Seahawks, right? Like they were together. Nate's talking to another special operator that's having like an emotional crisis. Jay's talking to an NFL athlete that's having an emotional crisis. And they both like had this aha of, holy shit, like athletes and combat veterans have like these similarities, right? About what happens when they transition, they take that uniform off, and what's their purpose in life after they're no longer either a pro athlete or, in combat and doing the thing that they do, right?
Yeah.
And that's where Emerging Vets and Players was born out of. So essentially, they took this idea, they went and tested it in clinical settings and realized that, like, if we put athletes and combat veterans together, like, there is some kind of symbiosis that happens that, like, provides an opportunity for them to, like, open up, share about themselves, work through the transition process and really find their purpose after they've taken the uniform off. So anyway, there was this little 3-minute clip it or whatever on in between fights. And I was like, that's really interesting. And they have an LA chapter. So I, like, looked it up, like, sent an email, like, got invited to the gym to, like, do the workout and do the huddle and deal. And that became my tribe. Right. And that was how I slowly integrated back into the veteran world. And that's where I came across the Marine that drugged me to the Loma Linda. That's where I came across my accountability crew. That's where I started to find other people that could help trudge that path with me. And I didn't have to keep it all locked up in the back of my head and up in the attic in my footlocker.
Oh, glad that you shared that and you found your tribe of people, man. That's important. Have that support system around you. And then, you get them vets. A lot of people, they don't have, you're not going to be around the same people that you serve with, but you're going to still be around people that serve. So, you just got to get out there and make it happen. I've been a couple around my area and looking to find more. And even I met some good veterans in college, in school, man. You meet a lot of vets in school using their benefits, like-minded like you. So glad to hear that you kept connecting, man. So if you could tell yourself or anyone else something, what you wish you would have done, not really wish you, no regrets or anything of that, but a little pep talk to the previous version of you before you got out, what would you tell yourself?
I think the hardest part for me, and I struggle through this kind of every year because I'm active on LinkedIn and I see it on socials, right? When promotion ceremonies occur, right? Like the annual promotion lists come out, right? Because I go back in my head and I'm like, okay, well, if I would have stuck with it, what if? Let's what if this, right?
Yeah.
Would I have made E9, right? Would I have been a chief master sergeant? Would I have, because I see a lot of my peers that I served with, right, getting to, like, those echelons, right? And I'm like, or could I have transferred over and gone to OCS and, like, been an officer? Like those are some of the things that sit in the back of my mind to go, could I have done the whole 20? Where would I have been at the end of that 20? Because for me, June 18th, 2002 was my enlistment date. I went through that 20-year mark, last year. And I was like, okay, that would have made me retirement eligible, right? Like, where would I have been in life if it would have followed that trajectory versus the trajectory I went on, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of, it's not a regret. It's more of like a what if, right? And I've had some conversations with folks and had to kind of play that through because I love that the military is embracing LinkedIn more and people are celebrating things and things are out there. But then my feed fills up with, like, all these people that got notified that they got promoted to chief and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, oh, damn, like, if I would have stuck around, like, could I have been that? Would I have done that?
Yeah, man, you could have done it. You succeeded in still doing your thing now. I mean, I feel like probably no doubt you would have kept progressing and making rank. Same thing, but it's like, hey, man, you still probably look back and say, man, I've been out for X amount of years and I made all this happen. I got my master's, I got doctors. I'm going to go and get my doctor's degree. I'm getting this, I'm doing that. I got 2 kids, you got another kid. So,
oh yeah, absolutely. No regrets about the decision that was made. It's kind of just that daydreaming of the what ifs, right? Playing that tape through and seeing what that would have looked like if I would have chose, pill A versus pill B, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Red versus blue, man. You never know which one you're gonna pick. So what was your favorite place that you got to go, like when you were on maybe on like a TDY or something like that? Did you get to go anywhere cool?
Coming back from Iraq, we ended up getting laid over in Germany for a couple of days.
Okay.
And by being laid over for a couple of days, we didn't come back on transport plane. We got to take the rotator back. So we knew the rotator schedule. So we were able to then hop on the bullet train and kind of do a little bit of traveling, right? And it was nice. I mean, we dipped into, we got to dip into northern France and we just got to do some cool stuff, right? Like it was all a blur because we did it in like 3 or 4 days, right? Like while we were just kind of knew we had to hang out, and there were a couple guys that were with us that weren't interested. So they like hung out in the hotel room on, in Germany, but it's just like, I'm not just going to sit at the PX all day and like just piss
Don't
away
do
the
that.
fact that we're stuck here for 4 days. Like I want to go like see some stuff.
Absolutely, especially if you get all that time, dude. Like you're right there. Like you said, you go to Luxembourg, France, Italy, whatever,
Right.
man. But yeah, dude, like there's always those people. I was stationed in Germany, and they had people that would line up at the defect before it would get open on the weekend when you could be out going to Prague or something like that. So if you guys are stationed in Europe, man, take some advice, get out, go get your passport stamped up. Ryanair flights used to be pretty cheap; they're probably still pretty affordable. You can get a Euro rail pass on the train. Man, go see Europe, man. Just go. It's beautiful. It's nice over there. Nice culture, nice food.
Oh yeah. So that was, and when and I know for a lot of those guys, they were homesick. They just wanted the 4 days to go past so that we could get back home. But like, if you're stuck somewhere, sitting in a hotel room ain't the way to do it.
Right? You still make the best of it, dude. You gonna go out sitting in a hotel room sleeping for 4 days instead of traveling Europe? Come on, dude. At least you're in Ramstein. At least they could have went to like the PX, got Johnny Rockets or Cinnabon or something like that. You spoiled over there. It's like little America, dude. But
I know, right?
It's all good though, man. It's nothing to be mad at. Just mad that I should have joined the Air Force, man. But nah. But hey, I appreciate you sharing everything and coming on here, stepping up to the call to action. Just sharing your story, being vulnerable, and I know that if someone listens to this story, they can take something away from it. You dropped a lot of knowledge and wisdom from your trials and tribulations. So I appreciate that. And I just wanted to see if you wanted to close it out with anything, and if you want to talk about anything else before we close it up for the day.
Just closing remarks. We didn't touch on my profession much, but if you are a transitioning military member or you are a veteran that's interested in a career in local government, find me on LinkedIn. We will connect. We have a whole chapter in the International City and County Management Association that is dedicated to raising awareness for vets in local government. And, I'm on that advisory committee. If you are interested in serving in your community after you take that uniform off, hit me up. There are pathways to do it.
Okay. Hey, well, Ben, I appreciate you coming on and look forward to staying in touch with you. If you guys are in the military community or someone that may want to share their story, don't hesitate to reach out. You can find us on LinkedIn, YouTube, leave a comment, and we can get you guys on so you guys can share your story, because it does matter. It may not, you may not think it matters, but all our stories matter even if you're not a military member. So I appreciate you guys listening in. And until next time, you guys have a blessed one. Thank you.